kinda knew I was.
Hey folks, let's spend some time with some friends up north. I'm Ben Cominos from WHBY in Appleton. Joining us from WCPT in Chicago is Patti Vasquez. And from the Minocqua Brewing Company, here's Kirk Bankstead. We've got the usual suspects from our Substack page with us, as well as a special guest or two. Wherever you are, welcome, you're up north.
Oh, all right. Hi, everybody. We're broadcasting live from the Minocqua Brewing Company Taproom. You listen to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150 Seattle, Washington, and of course, KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul. Thank you to our sponsors, Source Solar, Pride Coffee Roasters, and Minocqua Brewing Company. Take it away, Kirk.
Hey, welcome to the Up North podcast, everyone. So we're having our little holiday party here at the Minocqua Brewing Company Taproom. So unfortunately, two of our guests are yet to be imbibing, I don't think. And so to you out in podcast world, thank you for joining us, Senator Chris Larson, and the wonderful Amanda Nelson, who doesn't join us very often. So I'm going to give her little bio. Oh, of course hold on. Before Amanda Nelson is corporate news turns politics. Oh, she is Amanda's mild takes. And so Amanda she's an amateur historian and a political commentator that's kicking butt on like TikTok and the Substack platform, Instagram. And so we like Amanda. We want her to join us because she's keeping up with stuff that we're not even keeping up with. That's why we like to have her to join us. And then we have Patti Vasquez from WCPT. We got my friend here, Ben Cominos, who he's like it's like he's in the middle, the rumple seat, and he's like the tallest guy in the car. So
I'm the skinniest guy. That's how that works. When you're built like me, you go in the middle seat. That's fine.
All right. So the theme for tonight's show is what should we be focusing on in the news? Because a lot of the stuff that we're hearing from, and I'm going to ask you guys about some of this stuff, will absolutely not affect the power structures of America, but it does affect our dopamine levels. So, yes. When we're doom scrolling, studies have shown, even if it's bad news, like if it's stuff that gets us angry or gets us pleasureful, it's dopamine inducing. And so a lot of the news that we see, even I think the worst on the progressive side is called Occupy Democrats, because we always start with Trump is in disarray, disastrous stuff with Trump. So we want to talk about what makes a difference, what doesn't make a difference, and what we should be focusing on. And so I wanted to run through a couple things that I don't think make a difference, and I want to hand it off to Amanda to tell us what she thinks of it. So we got Hegseth is about to be impeached for the second strike. Kristi Noem is going to get fired because they don't like her. The Supreme Court is going to do anything good. And the ACA premium tax credits are going to get restored any minute now. Is any of that stuff, Amanda, stuff that you think actually matters in the discourse right now and might help get America back?
No. I don't. It's always a mistake to depend on the Roberts Court to do anything that makes rational sense to normal people. Hegseth cannot be impeached without a majority vote in the House and 2/3 of the Senate. It's the same process to impeach a member of Congress as it is to impeach the president. That is not happening. Maybe Kristi Noem will get fired. Maybe she'll quit. I don't know. That's a rumor that's going around. Apparently, they're going to replace her with Glenn Youngkin, who is my governor here in Virginia and is just a sweater vest walking. That would be an improvement, but is that actually going to happen? I really doubt it. She's not done anything to irritate Donald Trump, which is the only thing that really matters in this administration. I wouldn't depend on the ACA tax credits being extended. Republicans control every branch of government, and elections have consequences. And I understand that the media wants to dangle these things in front of us to make us click, but it doesn't do anything to help us actually function as an opposition to inflate these stories.
Chris, any of the stories that I just mentioned matter to you in terms of how Wisconsin keeps our democracy and how we help America get its democracy back?
I mean, only in the sense that if the public actually knows some of the stuff that's going on, but most of that stuff that you mentioned is all process. It's like you literally have to know so many different pieces of the puzzle for it to even mesh, right? It's like you're talking about a certain lunch table at high school, right? Some folks, they don't know these actors. They don't know the people who are involved. And frankly, if it doesn't affect the average person right now, it's not something that's going to engage them. And frankly, none of it requires action, right? I always love that's good, somebody else is taking care of it. Like there is no news that should give you permission to not step up and push back in whatever way that you can, or to not do something, right? Like especially at this moment in time. So they may be shooting themselves in the foot, but they sure as heck aren't doing it fast enough.
Patti, why do they put this stuff on the news?
Oh, I mean, well, here, one thing, you gotta fill content. The other thing is, like, if there are, I was gonna say, it's the money. You get the clicks, and you want to hit that dopamine, like you mentioned. And we talked about the damage report the other day, where they're like, "This is it. This is the end. It's all gonna blow up now." Ba 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 ba.
The damage report. That's just as bad as Occupy Democrats, I think, and they often share this stuff.
And
Ben,
by the way, I love John Irola. Irola? Yeah, but at any rate, go ahead.
No, yeah, and I'll be honest, Kirk. Like the reason that Scientology exists is the same reason that these stories exist in media. People want to hear everything's going to work out. We have answers. We have a path forward. I refer to them on my show as zombie issues because this goes well beyond anything in the Trump era. I feel like I was 11 years old when Columbine happened. How has the gun control debate changed since I was 11? I'm 38 now. Like this is an idea like that they don't go away. And I'm not saying I have solutions. I'm not saying ban all guns. I'm not saying leave it where it is. But we allow this stuff to gestate, to continue just spinning in a circle without going anywhere. And millennials are pushing middle age now at this point with the same issues facing us that were facing us when we were children.
Amanda, what is this issue? I mean, if we can't do anything about these stories and we doom scroll, I mean, how do you think that affects activism?
Oh, I think it's quite detrimental, actually. I mean, I started making content about politics because all I saw was doom scrolling, because all I was seeing, not just from cable news, but from other content creators online, was panic and breaking, whatever. Like, is Trump gonna die this weekend? Remember that weekend when we all thought he was finally gonna die? That was a bizarre sort of weekend, and no actual action steps. So I think what's actually helpful is contextualizing what's happening, like Chris was talking about like, here's how the process actually works. Here's the history behind it, and here's how you, as a normal person sitting in your living room, can do something about that. So I think that's actually, if I had $1 bajillion and could buy CNN, that's what I would make CNN talk about. But that's what I wish more content creators would do: contextualize and everything with an action step.
I will say, Amanda, I find your take on it interesting, but Patti and I both coming from the AM talk radio. Like I chose to do AM talk instead of social media because I felt like there was an audience that maybe wasn't hearing what we were talking about in AM. Whereas, you are absolutely kicking ass in your circle there, but there's a lot of voices getting into it there, trying to introduce it. And I can say the joke at Woodward is that my show is what if doom scrolling were a radio show. And as a result, though, I have people not in media, not in anything. They reach out to me. One woman even messaged the show today and said, because of this show, I go to school board meetings now. I go to local government. I'm learning how this kind of stuff works because I realized us talking about it is the first step, but it's a matter of turning it into action. So I think there's some measures where the doom scrolling on a community level might be beneficial, but I understand where you're coming from with it. Okay, so this gave me an idea. So we're definitely learning, what it takes to impeach cabinet members. Like that is some historical knowledge. Like, okay, Hegseth committed murder. We definitely are learning about what the code of
military code of ethics is, right? Because they're saying you shouldn't obey illegal orders, and that might all be preparing us for the future where some of this news might matter. But I don't think who's going to impeach Kegseth.
It won't. That's just it. It won't. Like, I hope nobody plans to run on impeaching Trump or Hegseth. They might be able to get it in the House. Don't get me wrong. They almost certainly could get it in the House, but it's never happening in the Senate. Run on issues. And when you have control of the House again, propose a new bill every day that's going to benefit the people. Make them vote no on Medicare for all. Make them vote no on some kind of government housing plan. Make them vote no every single day for 2 years and see what happens.
Chris, tell us what we're hearing about so let's go Wisconsin, bring it back to Wisconsin. All these bills that are being introduced by Republicans all the time, that's to cause a stir. A lot of the trans bills will never go anywhere. It makes news stories every single time, but of course we have a Democratic governor. He's gonna veto that stuff. What are the top stuff? What are the top zombie issues right now in Wisconsin? The next minute.
A lot of it, what they're doing is they're making it culture war stuff. These things that are people can understand a little bit easier because they're going the opposite direction. They're making it easier to fight on a culture war because those are easier than actually having a discussion about policy that will actually lower healthcare costs, make childcare more affordable, or to do something as simple as keeping Wisconsin Eye alive. So something you might not have heard, and if I don't say this now, is that Wisconsin Eye might disappear by the end of the year because Republicans refuse to come in to preserve the public oversight channel that I don't know how many people, but it's the only insight you get into what's happening in the Capitol for most folks. So they're too busy on culture war stuff. We were fighting over the definition of abortion today in committee. In the meantime, literally the lights might go dark on being able to have oversight and video of what's happening in the Capitol.
And seemingly SNAP benefits are still on edge too, right? Real news.
Oh, there was real hope. We were holding our breath. We thought we were all going to be in the Capitol today, and then earlier this week they said nope, we're not going to do anything to help. So happy holidays. We're not coming in this year.
We are broadcasting live from the Minocqua Brewing Company Taproom in Madison, Wisconsin. Kirk Banks said Ben Cominos, the host of Outside the Box on WHBY, Senator Chris Larson, and of course Amanda Nelson, Amanda's Mile It Takes, whose door is slightly ajar, and it's making me nervous. Someone's going to jump through that door, by the way, behind you.
My dog isn't bark.
I know it's good radio. I'm so excited to be talking to Amanda, by the way. She's on my phone every day, and here she is. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back after this on WCPT. Oh, we have guests coming to join us. WCPT 820, Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150, and KTNF AM 950. We're thrilled to have you here. And thank you to our sponsors, Pride Coffee Roasters, Source Solar, and, of course, Minocqua Brewing Company. More in a moment.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of Progressive Beer. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells Progressive Beer all throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and online to about 30 states. Never seen it? That's likely because we've been banned by distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy Progressive Beer, go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click the Retail Locations tab. That's MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Retail Locations. We get it. Your liver is under constant attack. Alcohol is a dictator that takes away your freedom. It distracts while doing its dirty work. It weakens your judicial system and governing bodies. If you give it too much power, you'll never be the same. We have the solution. 8647 THC Hop Water. 0 alcohol, 0 calories, tastes like patriotism. 8647 THC Hop Water. Liberate your liver. Buy 8647 THC Hop Water and Joint Session, our THC Orange Cooler, by going to thc.minocquabrewingcompany.com. That's thc.minocquabrewingcompany.com. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Minocqua Brewing Company, who sells progressive beer online across the country. If you like the show today, please consider buying one of our beer subscription packages for yourself or a loved one. You can subscribe to the Democrat, the Liberal, and the Progressive, which delivers four packs of beer to your door for 6 months, a year, or 2 years. To find where you can subscribe to get progressive beer delivered to your door every month, go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. That's MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. The Minocqua Brewing Company is excited to partner with Brouhaha Coffee to create woke coffee. Get woke, go broke. That's what they say, right? Au contraire, mon frère. This gourmet coffee was awarded 2025 Roast of the Year at the Coffee Break Festival in Wisconsin, and it comes in both medium and dark roasts. Support our political action and enjoy fabulous coffee at the same time. For our Up North podcast listeners, go to the MinocquaMarketplace.com, find coffee under the beverage tab, and type in Up North to get 10% off your order. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com and use the promo code Up North.
Thank you for joining us as we continue our broadcast from the Minocqua Brewing Company Taproom in Madison, Wisconsin. And let's turn it over to our fearless host, Kurt Bankson.
Okay, so this next segment has been all over the news, or this next dopamine hit. I think it's a dopamine hit, but I want to ask Amanda what she thinks. We've been told that that there's going to be like 20 Republican Congress people who are going to be resigning before the 2026 election. It sounds too good to be true. So Amanda, you're closer to DC than we are here in Wisconsin. Do you actually know who any of the, other than Marjorie Taylor Greene, who announced she's going to be leaving right after she's able to collect her pension? Have you heard, do you know anything more than we do up here about what actual Congress people might just leave and give us the majority between now and the election?
Yeah, that's not happening. That's not real. There were rumors that Nancy Mace was going to follow Marjorie Taylor Greene out the door before the end of her term, but that turned, she said that that's not happening. There are a lot of members of Congress who are retiring at the end of their terms. And it's a significant amount. It's 42 in the House. And then I think another 8 in the Senate. That's both parties. And that's a lot. I mean, last cycle at this time, it was 30. In 2020, it was 30 at this time in the cycle as well. So it's significantly more. The difference, though, is that the Democrats who are retiring are actually retiring. The Republicans who are retiring are going to run for other things at the state level. So they're just abandoning ship, whereas the Democrats who are retiring are kind of like in their 80s and getting the message from the party that we don't really want them around anymore. So that's the difference. But no, there is not going to be a situation where 20 new Republicans leave tomorrow and we suddenly have a majority. That's a myth.
We only have, am I right? There's like 7 seats that separate right now in the House, the Republicans with the Democrats. And so we only need 7 people to magically quit and hand us power for no reason at all.
Not even that. I mean, we would need 3 or 4, right, to make their voting margin functionally 0. But yeah, it would be great. Wouldn't that be nice? Can I pick 6? That would be great.
We need the spirit of John McCain to show up here and stick it to Trump on his way out the door, I think is the best thing that we can hope for. It's interesting to watch happen. To me, it's tea leaves, because to Amanda's point, it's a lot of older Democrats. And also the one that stuck out to me was Jared Golden, who's a more centrist Democrat. I think what people are coming to grips with is there's people that want to see the Democratic Party go further to the left, and somehow there's people out there that want to see the Republican Party go right. And I think there's a lot of people that know they aren't going to be able to deliver in the ways and still be true to themselves. Even some of the worst people on the right that have driven us nuts don't necessarily see a way to play ball with this Republican Party. I think that's what's driving these numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the Republicans are just, I mean, they want to be the ones that are thumping their chest and get out and have their sound bites. And then at the end of the day, they're still afraid of Trump, by the way. And, they still shiver when he says that he'll primary them or call them names. That's how a lot of this started with Marjorie Taylor Greene when she said she wanted the Epstein files released.
Yeah.
Chris, would you ever leave your Senate role early so that you would hand over power to Republicans, assuming we ever get control back of our legislature?
Pass. No, absolutely not. But I think like with the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing, it is interesting because she honestly, she walked the full path of being somebody who was feeling frustrated by the elites, and all of some of her other viewpoints I definitely don't agree with, but I think that one was pretty genuine of saying, yeah, we're going to take on the elites. And it suddenly clicked with her. Wait a minute. These guys are the elites. They are taking care of the elites. That's who they care about. And once she figured that out, she had a sense of well, why the heck am I still here? Why should I still be here? So her speaking out, I don't know. You know this about me, Kirk. I'm always an advocate for growing the tent. I don't know if there's necessarily room for Marjorie Taylor Greene, but she is somebody who's like, wait a second, you know, like all this talk of the Matrix, like she actually took the red pill and was like, wait a minute, this is all make-believe. You guys don't care about any of this stuff. I'm out.
So the only thing that, you know, okay, imagine a bloodbath. The polls are suggesting there's going to be a bloodbath for Republicans in 2026, assuming that we have elections at all, which I'm still on the fence about. But if we do have elections, there's going to be a lot of Republicans that lose, and these people won't be in power anymore. That being said, you know, if, you know, the best case scenario to me is that, you know, MAGA implodes so badly that it actually like hurts your career path. You know, if we lose and if we have this rebellion or something after the election and impeach Trump, might it be better to get out between now and getting killed in the next election? Is that possibly a reason why some congressmen might try to get jobs in the private sector between now and 2026? Amanda?
Well, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to primary advance in 28. I think that's what she's setting herself up to do. So she's left Congress so that, just like what you just said, so she can put some distance between herself and the mess that's coming and is currently happening. So when 28 runs around, she can say, I was the real America first this whole time. Look at these insane ding-dongs and how little they've gotten done for you. As far as the rest of Congress, yeah, I mean, I think that they see, you know, they smell the blood in the water just like the rest of us do. We're currently in special elections. Democrats are plus 13 in special elections. We swung Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, 13 points to the left. Anyone who's in a district, including the ones that have been recently gerrymandered in Texas, if you are not in a R plus 15 seat, we're coming for you. And they know that. So like, get out now before you're humiliated and you can make a new career of it somewhere, which is what they're doing. They're going to run for governor's seats. They're going to run for Senate. You know, they're fleeing like rats in a friggin' sinking ship.
1 in 5 Republican seats have flipped in 2025. 21% of all seats. And it's not in the, yes, Mamdani won. Yes, there are some blue seats. We're also seeing it happen at the state assembly in Georgia. We're also seeing a close race in Tennessee. We're seeing all these different things happen. And I think people are reading tea leaves. They know once you lose once, it's very difficult to bounce back. Not impossible, very difficult to bounce back. And the writing's on the wall. Assuming, you know, an alternative message is proposed, but I won't kick in outside the box mode here. But, you know, we need something out there for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there is a sense of, with all these folks looking to jump, you know, I think that you got to go back to 2010 on the opposite side, where Democrats were about to be losing. They were headed for their decline for opposite reason, because they tried to actually get something done within the rules back when there was 60 seats in the Senate. And you saw David Obey leave, you saw Ron Kind leave, rather than face an electorate that they probably could have won in. I think you're going to see that from more Republicans who are looking to leave. And frankly, you have the added incentive or the disincentive that you've got Trump, who has an active and violent mob at his disposal to direct at people. I mean, it was Marjorie Taylor Greene has had the ire of Democrats and liberals for how many years? But it took just, 2 days of Republicans being mad at her and threatening violence for her to be like, that's it. I'm done for good. So Republicans have that dual stick. They have the incentive to leave, and they sure as heck don't have the incentive to stick around.
Amanda, what races are you looking at? Because I'm excited that Crockett's jumped into the race in Texas. And I know Colin Allred has dropped out. Tallarico now still stands. What races are you looking at?
Well, for 26, certainly that one. I am very excited here in Virginia to get rid of Rob Whitman and Jen Kiggin. They are both just the fraggin' worst. And Rob Whitman is my congressman personally. So I make videos twice a month about how annoying he is. I tag him in all of it. I direct my ire to him specifically. So I'm getting involved in the primary there, just to, like, whoever wins the primary, I don't care. I'm just going to make sure, or we're going to redraw the seats here so we can get him out and redraw the map and just eliminate his seat. So those are the races that I've got my eye on because they're in my backyard. Also, John Bacon, when he leaves in the NE2.
No, you talk, Amanda. Are you kidding?
Oh, well, that's it. That's it. The NE2, you know, when he goes, the main Senate race is interesting. Plattner and Mills are in that primary now. They both have, you know, positives and negatives depending on your perspective, but either one is better than Susan Collins. And her approval rating is lower than Donald Trump's right now, which is bananas because he's at like Nixon levels with independents, especially, which is what she needs in Maine. So there's a lot of really interesting things happening.
Outstanding. It's Amanda Nelson, Amanda's Mild Takes. Thank you for joining us, our friend.
Yeah.
And it was great catching up with you. And now it's weird because I scroll you and now I talk.
Well, I'll see you on the Instagram.
I will see you on the Instagram. Follow her. And we'll be right back after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. We're broadcasting the Up North podcast from the Minocqua Brewing Company Taproom in Madison. Ben Cominos from Outside the Box at WHBY. Kirk Banks and our fearless leader. And Senator Chris Larson. More in a moment.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of progressive beer. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells progressive beer all throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and online to about 30 states. Never seen it? That's likely because we've been banned by distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy progressive beer, go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click the Retail Locations tab. That's MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Retail Locations. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Minocqua Marketplace, or what we like to call the Amazon for progressives. Every product sold on the Minocqua Marketplace is made by a company that's pledged to never donate money to the MAGA movement. There's over 60 companies on our marketplace, and we sell everything from nuts to detergents to doormats. Save democracy with your wallet by shopping only at MinocquaMarketplace.com. For Up North podcast listeners, save 10% on any order in the store by going to MinocquaMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Minocqua Brewing Company, who sells progressive beer online across the country. If you like the show today, please consider buying one of our beer subscription packages for yourself or a loved one. You can subscribe to the Democrat, the Liberal, and the Progressive, which delivers four packs of beer to your door for 6 months, a year, or 2 years. To find where you can subscribe to get progressive beer delivered to your door every month, go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. That's MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of our progressive t-shirts. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells t-shirts to supplement our beer sales because we've been banned by beer distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy our t-shirts, go to MinocquaMarketplace.com and go to Apparel. For Up North podcast listeners, get 10% off on all of our merch by going to MinocquaMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of progressive beer. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells progressive beer all throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and online to about 30 states. Never seen it? That's likely because we've been banned by distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy progressive beer, go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click the Retail Locations tab. That's MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Retail Locations. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Minocqua Marketplace, or what we like to call the Amazon for progressives. Every product sold on the Minocqua Marketplace is made by a company that's pledged to never donate money to the MAGA movement. There's over 60 companies on our marketplace, and we sell everything.
Thank you for joining us as we continue our broadcast. No, I don't know what's happening. She's just mic hot, but I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you for joining us as we continue our drive home with the Up North podcast of the Minocqua Brewing Company's Tap Room. Joining me is Ben Cominos, the host of Outside the Box on WHBY. Kirk Banks said the fearless leader of Minocqua Brewing Company, and of course, Wisconsin's Senator, I don't know what district, but Senator Chris Larson. Take it away, Kirk.
You don't need to know the district. You just know it's the coolest, one of the coolest parts of Wisconsin outside of Madison.
At least one of us came prepped today. The seventh.
I did flash the 7 on the screen, but yes, nobody else knows those numbers. There should be some level of trivia though that, you know, to distinguish the gubernatorial candidates, right? Like who actually knows the districts and who can name the state official dance.
Yeah. Okay. Mike, can you turn Chris up so we can hear him next time he talks? So we talked about these dopamine hit articles in the first segment. We talked about the biggest one of all, which suggests that a certain amount of MAGA Republican congressmen might leave between now and the election, which just makes no sense. But we keep on hearing like whispers of this happening. We talked about how that's probably not likely. Now, what I want to talk about in this segment and the next segment is things that really do matter in the news that can inform us and help us get power back, get our democracy back. So in this segment, I wanted to talk about lawsuits and stuff happening at the state level, things being passed at the state level. So Ben, what are some of these lawsuits that are happening right now that are something we should be paying attention to, that might slow ICE down, that might mess with the Trump regime?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of ICE lawsuits, I think there's a ton of good things happening out there in the ether, if you will, in terms of trying to crack down on this. Whether you see talks about up in New York offers to actually use the NYPD to arrest members of ICE who are overstepping their bounds, whether you're talking about in your own home state of Illinois with Governor Pritzker and his efforts to is it straight up unmasking?
Yes.
Unmasking the agents, as it were. There's a lot of good things to get excited about here, but I mean, again, I always feel like I'm the pessimist of the group, and I'm really trying hard not to be here. Like they are net positives, but also everybody who's in favor of it is already voting Democrat, and so it's just a matter of getting through these federal judges. And I'll be honest with you guys, we watched what happened with the gerrymandering in Texas. We watched what goes on with a number of these things. You want to believe these things are going to get through, but there's so much more nuance to it than that. And I think the best move is, dangerous words, defund ICE. We increased ICE funding for 4 years with Democrats in control. The lawsuits are good. I like what I'm seeing out of this. I wouldn't be surprised if they're delayed until it doesn't matter anymore. So we got to look out for each other for right now. Yeah. I hate to rain on it here, but that's kind of the way I'm looking at this right now.
Patti, what about the lawsuits that are happening at the federal level and the state level? Do you think they're helping? Do you think, what are we achieving by fighting?
Well, because it feels like when there is a judicial ruling, it doesn't matter. Because in Chicago, there was a judge who demanded that ordered that Greg Bovino show up in her court every day at 6:00 to give her a report how things went. And I believe it was a circuit court, I can't remember which court it was, said that was too much, and they reversed that. But I mean, it does seem as though there's often these rulings that are for naught. I mean, it's I guess, to your earlier point about dopamine, like at first you're like, yeah, this, and so now I think we're getting less and less enthusiastic, not just enthusiastic, but have less faith in the judicial system. And it starts with the top court, right? It doesn't, like, whenever there's a win for us, it's exciting because, okay, maybe we got a shot, but you know where it ends.
So I have one thought, and then I'm going to ask Chris to talk about our Supreme Court and gerrymandering in these three judge panels. I'll let you ruminate on that for a second. But the one thing that I read today in another Substack, which is becoming my main source of news, because even the New York Times had a women or feminism has killed the workplace.
Oh, I saw that.
I'm like, great. The New York Times, when they start writing that stuff, I'm like, Jesus, I got to go straight to Substack for everything. But what I heard today was, so this shadow docket that the Supreme Court just gave away the congressional districts in Texas. They just gave it away. They also shadow docketed a decision about how ICE was able to treat people, and they shadow docketed. It was a stay, and they stayed the decision. The lower court says you can't mistreat people or something, but they shadow docketed. And the shadow docket means there's no actual explanation on why the Supreme Court ruled like they did. And so this lower federal court judge, instead of just, the Trump administration then used this shadow docket to say that because they stayed your ruling and allowed, which meant that the ICE could act the way they were acting and, violate due process or beat people up, they hung that ruling, that stay, in front of this federal judge. The federal judge said, no, there is no actual writing on the decision that the Supreme Court made. So I'm going back to the statute, and I'm going to rule on the statute that actually exists in law. And so that was something I read today where the lower courts are actually rebelling against the Supreme Court, because you can't just, how are you supposed to, if you're changing the law without a description of why you're changing the law, how is a lower court supposed to actually determine how to rule in the, again, so to me, that's a bit of a rebellion happening. Coming back to Wisconsin, because we got Senator Larson here, we have a similar situation happening in, we just got Texas. Texas just got a bunch of new Republican-leaning districts, which might actually end up being Democratic because there's not that much margin in between.
Absolutely.
It's called dumplandering when you actually gerrymander a bunch of Latino districts within like 5 percentage points of Democrats, and they're disappearing. All these Latinos. So that might be a mistake in Texas, but we have the opportunity to get one or two seats in Wisconsin because the Supreme Court just ruled on a federal gerrymandering case. Chris, can you lay that out for us and tell us the likelihood of this happening before 2026?
That's a really good question. I mean, it's up to the state Supreme Court as it exists right now, which is in a 5-3 liberal majority. 4-3 liberal majority in our state because there's 7 justices. Add to that, this has been the least active state Supreme Court of the last 2 decades, maybe beyond that, where they have just not issued a ton of rulings. And part of that is because it is a 4-3 that's finally tilted towards more, I don't even put them as progressives. I would put them as like more justice oriented, and abruptly stopped the right-wing project to overtake our state Supreme Court, which they had for the last 15 years, since Ziegler was on the court for the first time back in 2007. Anyways, they're very much reluctant to take a lot of cases. So the only chance that they would actually do something is if the panel comes back and says, here, yes, you should shift these districts around, which is certainly a possibility, but they would have to do it before April 15th, which is the filing deadline for districts for people running for Congress in the state of Wisconsin. So that it's possible that the window of time between when the primary is, when the Supreme Court Supreme Court election is and when they make that decision, there's like a week. So they would literally have to do it within that week. And we have no indication of where they're going to be unless you happen to be a Supreme Court justice who happens to be listening to this podcast right now, then you know.
Yeah, I normally am an advocate for common sense taking over. And the fact of the matter is, regardless of what analysis you are looking at, Republicans have gerrymandered the House and Senate more than Democrats. Both have done it for sure, but it is either +2 Republican as far as +16 Republican. You see Texas doing what they're doing. You see Indianapolis doing what they're doing. You're seeing it all over the place here. The idea that Wisconsin is all of a sudden going to become high-minded, I highly doubt. And there is an element of frustration to me with that, with the Supreme Court, and that's with the U.S. Supreme Court as well as Wisconsin. None of us here, maybe, do you have a legal degree?
I should have an honorary one. So how many times I've been in jail and been sued.
Right. You don't have a legal
I'm going to
degree.
ask UW Madison to give me an honorary.
How is it that any one of the three of us could probably guess either the United States Supreme Court or the Wisconsin Supreme Court's rulings within an 80% accuracy? The fact that none of us know the law.
I will guess
goes
it.
To show you.
I will get it right now. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to happen. Because
they'll do it.
Because no, our Supreme Court, Wisconsin Supreme Court, is so scared to act partisan, even in the face of Texas being gerrymandered and Indiana being gerrymandered. They will do nothing in 2026. We will not get a second.
They'll gerrymander the crap out of this state. Not to the extent Republicans did. They will get us 2 seats. They'll
not before 2026.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look, they came close to having fair maps in the state of Wisconsin, and that got pulled away from them by the governor when Republicans flinched, right? And they passed the maps that Evers wrote. So you got to remember that the court was prepared. I think they were prepared. We don't know, but I think we have a pretty smart court. We have some pretty awesome smart justices on there that they live within the world if you listen to them. So we'll see. I have faith in them.
That's Senator Chris Larson. We've got Ben Cominos, the host of WHBY's Outside the Box. We have, of course, Kirk Banks, the fearless leader of Minocqua Brewing Company, and we are at the Madison Taproom. Make sure you stop by whenever you get a chance. I'm your host, Patti Vasquez, and we're driving it home on WCPT, KKNW, and KTNF. More in a moment.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of progressive beer. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells progressive beer all throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and online to about 30 states. Never seen it? That's likely because we've been banned by distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy progressive beer, go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click the Retail Locations tab. That's MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Retail Locations. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Minocqua Marketplace, or what we like to call the Amazon for progressives. Every product sold on the Minocqua Marketplace is made by a company that's pledged to never donate money to the MAGA movement. There's over 60 companies on our marketplace, and we sell everything from nuts to detergents to doormats. Save democracy with your wallet by shopping only at MinocquaMarketplace.com. For Up North podcast listeners, save 10% on any order in the store by going to MinocquaMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Minocqua Brewing Company, who sells progressive beer online across the country. If you like the show today, please consider buying one of our beer subscription packages for yourself or a loved one. You can subscribe to the Democrat, the Liberal, and the Progressive, which delivers four packs of beer to your door for 6 months, a year, or 2 years. To find where you can subscribe to get progressive beer delivered to your door every month, go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. That's MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of our progressive t-shirts. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells t-shirts to supplement our beer sales because we've been banned by beer distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy our t-shirts, go to MinocquaMarketplace.com and go to Apparel. For Up North podcast listeners, get 10% off on all of our merch by going to MinocquaMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the
Company Taproom in Madison, Wisconsin. We're joined by the host of Outside the Box on WHBY. You can go to WHBY.com or,
or download the app.
Yeah, whatever. We also have Kirk Banks, the fearless leader of Minocqua Brewing Company Taproom, Minocqua Brewing Company. Go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, subscribe to their newsletter, and subscribe to the Substack so you can enjoy the work that Kirk, Ben, and I do. And also Senator Chris Larson, who joins us from the Rootin' Tootin' 7th District of Wisconsin.
Hey.
All right. So we talked about the articles that don't matter. We talked about the congressional Republicans that certainly won't give up their power. We talked about things that do matter, like some of the cases happening in the lower courts, not the Supreme Court. They've completely given up.
And the guarantee that we're getting new congressional districts in 2026.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Ooh, I feel a bet coming on.
We need progressives with actual courage, and that's not our Wisconsin Supreme Court. So, I want to talk about two more things that really matter. Activism is going to come later, but the things that seemingly are happening are also California's legislature passed a bill that to unmask ICE, and I wrote about that in my article last Sunday. Now, the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution might mean that they don't have a shot at being able to do that because the supremacy clause means federal laws take precedent over state laws. But even New Illinois, Patti,
yes, we're very excited.
Pritzker signed this week. They restrict immigration enforcement around courthouses, hospitals, daycares, and college campuses.
Yep.
So there's certain bills being passed that are trying to gum up the works at the state level. And I think that's important to follow. And I think it's important to encourage our state legislators to keep on doing this because that's seemingly one of the bulwarks against all this authoritarianism. Patti, you talk Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. Well, here's the thing.
Whatever your thoughts are.
What's crazy to me is when you see like the attacks that happened in Elgin on Saturday, where ICE crashed into a resident's car. He got out of the car and ran into an apartment building, and all of a sudden, all the neighbors come out. Tear gas is just deployed. These ICE agents are blowing kisses and laughing as they're blind, including kids in the crowd that were out there with their parents. And by the way, I just pulled up an article. AI is unmasking agents, by the way. So it's able to basically matrix the rest of the face based on the top of the head. And I kind of love that a lot. AI for the win on that. You may not like it, but I'm enjoying that.
Senator Larson, what is happening so I know Democrats are in the minority in Wisconsin, but even putting forth bills that try to gum up the works for ICE or to stop Trump from taking away our SNAP benefits, even putting forth those bills and then having those bills be rejected seem like a good tactic, because then we can tell the public that the Republicans don't care about you. What's going on? Is there any of those bills happening right now? Or
yeah, there's quite a few of those that are circulating. There's one that would require the unmasking of agents in the state of Wisconsin, that anybody who's an agent of the government would have to disclose their identity. They would have to disclose their badge number, and reiterating that if they need to just detain somebody, that they have to do it lawfully. There's other bills in circulation that would actually prevent further tax remissions to the federal government if they are not doing their obligations and if they are violating it. So there's some stuff with some teeth. Unfortunately, there is just not the robust press, right? Despite the efforts of the folks on the other side of the screen here, there is just not as much attention from the from what's actually going on in our state capital. But there is legislation from a group of folks who get it and get the moment that we're in, and are looking to make sure we're capitalizing on that. There is almost unanimous Democratic support of trying to extend benefits where they are going to be cut off. We were hoping that we were going to be brought in, but it doesn't look like that's going to be. Unfortunately, that's happening.
Yeah, there's an untold element, because like I'm obviously up in Northeast Wisconsin normally, and it's definitely not as diverse as where I'm from or what I'm used to or anything like that. But in my particular apartment complex, and Patti, you and I maybe have had conversations about this on your show before, very heavy Latino prior to January 20th, very heavy Latino presence and at my apartment complex.
And since? You said prior to? Okay.
Yeah, that's what stinks is the first 2 years I lived up there, they all worked manual labor jobs. I have an early radio show. We'd all be back around 2 p.m. There would be barbecues in the parking lot. There'd be music playing. There was fun happening. Like, it was a solid environment.
We bring a good time, don't we?
And like, Patti, not only that, but like also most of the people worked with the apartment complex. Yeah. You know what I mean? Everybody had a job. Everybody was doing something, and it is gone today. And it was so apparent today during the snowstorm, nothing was happening. Nobody was awake, no plows going, and it shows such a lack of foresight, because and you know, probably much to your chagrin sometimes, I give MAGA the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, you know what? The economy did suck for 4 years, and maybe you aren't being a bigot. Yeah, and then this stuff happens, and I'm just like, what are you championing if this is the outcome that we're getting right now? Is it good that a bunch of white people were stuck in the snow today? Is that the ultimate outcome here of this movement? What is ICE actually about? Well, this is what we're dealing with. And that's in Northeast Wisconsin.
Well, and of course, you know, we have a large Latino populations in Chicago. Chicago has the second largest Mexican population in the United States. Pilsen and Little Village, the economies are absolutely decimated. You have, businesses that can't even stay open now. You've got, and all across the city, there are restaurants that are struggling because people don't want to come to work. They're afraid to leave their homes. So but I do think, and I was in New Orleans last week, and I saw ICE in the French Quarter, and people were terrified. Again, same thing. Folks didn't want to go to work. This is decimating the economies of cities around the country.
And it's making it less enjoyable. Like, I'm just going to be honest. It makes it less enjoyable.
For sure. So, okay. So we're having this party after this, and we filled up this bar more than I thought it was going to be filled up. But we've got a guest who I wanted to bring in who had a question, and before the show is over. So come on up. What Rich again? Or Rich, come on up and ask your question.
Did we meet on Facebook?
We did.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Great.
We didn't bend that down. Absolutely. I think. Sorry, Mike.
did.
Is that okay if he does that? I said absolutely for Mike's.
Put your face into it.
All right, is this good?
Oh, yep.
Okay, so my question is, if we're unfortunate enough to encounter ice in Madison, like actually witness that,
Yep.
We're going to be filled with fear, anger. Like, what can we do? Is there anything within our safety and legal rights to try to help without us all of a sudden getting arrested, needing a lawyer, all that?
First of all, carry a whistle. That's what we do in Chicago, and it's the whistle brigade to alert other people that ICE isn't in the area, to warn them to stay in their homes if they might be vulnerable. Go ahead, Kurt.
So it's a perfect question. I'm almost wondering if somebody told you to ask that, because it segues into the last bit of our program, and it is the things that we've been talking about in this podcast and in my writing and Patti and Ben's writing since day one, since January. Is we don't expect to necessarily have free and fair elections in 2026. We can't expect, especially in Wisconsin, the Republican legislators who have the majority to do anything to help us. I would argue we can't expect our Democratic milquetoast governor to help us that much either. And I know Chris might not want to hear that. But what I do know is that there are resistance tactics that have been used from the start, and one of them is marching in the streets and knowing your rights, so that when ICE comes and scares you, you're like, no, you need a warrant to enter here. No, are you detaining me? You write your number on your arm so that if you get detained, you can call your lawyer. There's all these education. We've done education seminars here. The Turners in Milwaukee do a lot of education. So you got to educate yourself to know how to protest, for one, and then secondly, you got to you gotta throw sand in the gears of ICE, and that means what they've been doing in Chicago. You just and in Portland, you dress like a darn turtle, and you be funny, because funny means you're not violent, but you crowd so much that they can't get their cars out of the fence. You can't get their cars out of and so you just slow them down.
Yes.
You make them look ridiculous, and those are all resistance. You resist against Tesla, you protest against Tesla. So all of these tactics have already been done, and they need to keep on being done, including planning for a general strike, which I think if they roll back free and fair elections, which would be ground zero for like a civil war, the only way to non-violently resist that, if we can't even elect people anymore, is to strike and refuse to work and bring our economy to its knees. And I will continue to advocate that those discussions keep happening, because we need to have a plan B. And it's so freaky to think about general strike. Everybody says it's impossible. So those are a couple of the resistance things that you can do, even if all else fails. Can you talk about the last couple things about voting? People can volunteer to be poll workers.
Right. Yes, that'd be great. And register voters. You can carry around voter registration material on your in your bag. And if you talk to somebody who says they're not right, that I don't vote, I'm not really into politics, give them a voter registration, and tell them why it's important to do so.
I don't know what it's like in your guys' district, but like doing AM talk, I'm a celebrity when I go to vote because everybody's over 70. And
I the Evergreen Country Club, and I was like, that's my crowd.
Yeah, right. Like I mean, I'm just being real. And there were poll watchers when I was there, and I had my Pennsylvania license up until just a couple of weeks ago. They tried to shut me down. Do your thing.
Thank you all so much for joining us at the Minocqua Brewing Company Taproom in Madison, Wisconsin. Kurt Bangstead, Senator Chris Larson, and Ben.
Hey.
I'm Patti Vasquez. Thank you all so much for joining us. Have a great night. Thank you, Lady B, for making this happen.
Yeah, thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Chris.
I was going to say.
Say, Lord, I say, Lord.
Yeah, that's why we're
Here,
here.
look at this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Say hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, what up? It's great.
No, it's solid.
May I disconnect this
Totally
one?
solid. Thank Amy for putting the show together.
I refuse. I will not give. I will not thank Amy. Where is she? I hope she hears me.
I'll guide you down with your eyes.
Yeah, right. I'm good.
Oh, I love this.